Okay, this is it. This is the question. We're running back a little bit. This is the $1 million question that itches my
Of
soul.
all stakeholders, obviously drivers, right? There's 10 to 12,000 drivers in Minneapolis or in the state of Minnesota. There was a governor's report that came out that put the numbers out, and it seems like a lot of these drivers are full timers, like 30% or so, and they do 70% of the trips, just like it is in most cases. 20/80 rule applies. Um, what is going to happen to these drivers, Eid? I mean, I know you're in touch with hundreds, if not thousands of them. May 1st, assuming they leave, how are these people going to make a living?
Well, that's a very good question, and fair enough. Yeah, these drivers have been doing this for quite some time for a living, and the way the condition that they are at this moment, by not making ends meet, and as you're well aware of, the report that was released by the state was mentioned that these drivers were getting underpaid for all of this time. So um, drivers are out there trying to do their best and working many hours so that they're able to just kind of at least get enough to feed their families. It's really tough. So in huge numbers every day, drivers come and tell me, "Is there any other opportunity? Is there any other place where I can go?" So yes, I would say when tough times come, there are always opportunities somewhere else. So if Uber and Lyft leave, there are so many other folks who are going to step in, and I do have a very strong feeling that um, that some other entities will just replace. I'm not going to say that they're going to be taken care of 100%, but at least way better than what the situation is now.
Yeah.
Okay. My problem with this is that to some of you who are watching, this is new. This is something that just started. I've been covering this since last year, and it's been going on since before I covered it. I think that it is extremely irresponsible that this organization would make a change, right? So the change itself is fine. Change itself is fine. They wanted to do something. Uber and Lyft said, if you do this, this is how we're going to react. And from where I sit, it doesn't seem like this MULDA has done enough, and the council is part of this problem too, done enough to find alternatives, right? Uber and Lyft have been saying that they would leave for a while. This isn't brand new. You push this ordinance through, which whatever, I disagree with the ordinance, but you push it through and you don't have a backup lined up. Last week they said that there weren't any alternative rideshare companies that have applied to do rideshare in Minneapolis. There is one that popped up, and we'll talk about him in a second, like in a couple of minutes. But I'm very, very disappointed. Again, I disagree with the amount. This organization put in a lot of groundwork to pass something that they thought would benefit drivers. And in the midst of that, companies were saying that they're going to leave, and they've left other places before. If you truly believe that another company can come in and fill that gap, I just think it was so important for you to be ready, right? A couple months ago, when they first got this threat, they put out a statement saying, that's okay, you want to leave, bye. We've got backups. And even then, I criticized them for saying, if you have backups, you should have been building that up ahead of time, right? I said that in the past. You can find it on my different videos. I have maintained this stance when it was hard to maintain this stance, right? Everything that I currently believe, it's hard to believe it because what happens is I put content out and I know it's against the status quo. I know most people disagree with me. I know those videos aren't going to get views, but it's important for me to put that idea out there that just because this passes doesn't mean you're going to do well, and you should start protecting your finances. So it's super important for me to do that, regardless of the views, regardless of the sentiment. So like I'm playing bad guy right now, but I'm starting to feel like the longer this thing progresses, the longer this thing moves forward, the more information comes to light, my my gut feeling of me being the bad guy is starting to like dissipate. Because how can you get this far and not have the most important part of figuring out an alternative solution for the drivers that you're fighting for? I think that's unfair. I think it's unfair for you to disrupt something for drivers without trying to get an alternative, right? Now, I will say they have recently been trying to make an improvement on trying to fill that gap, right? So I'm not going to harp too much longer on the fact that they haven't had something ready now, because they are trying to get something ready in the future, right? So I did find this today, right before the stream started. I'll quickly read it. It says Minneapolis Council Committee to consider funding to support new rideshare companies publicly or publicity to help Minneapolis riders make the switch. So this is cool. I like this, moving in the right direction. The Minneapolis Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee will consider allocating $150,000 for supplemental small business financing that could be used to support new and emerging rideshare companies and discuss ways to meet Minneapolis to publicize new rideshare options. Now, it sounds like debt. You know, I wouldn't go into debt, but I like that this option exists for those who are trying to fill in that gap. When I did some research previously, we saw that it would cost about $45,000 just to get licensed in Minneapolis as a rideshare TNC provider. So giving people the ability to take out debt in order to fill that gap, that's cool. I wouldn't do it, because the second Uber and Lyft change their mind and come back, they're gonna like get your business out of there, just like they did in Austin. But this is still a cool option because it shows that they're trying to get someone to fill the gap. So that's cool. It says earlier this month, a supermajority of Minneapolis City Council voted to require rideshare companies to pay rates equivalent to the municipal wage of $15.57. Uber and Lyft, the $2 billion rideshare companies that have been sole providers of rideshare in Minneapolis, have stated they will lead the entire metro area in response to being required to pay minimum wage equivalents. In less than 2 weeks since the passage of the ordinance, several rideshare companies have expressed eagerness to obtain license and begin operations in Minneapolis. These emerging and expanding businesses are ready to comply with the city ordinances and pay minimum wage equivalents, and the council members look forward to supporting them in providing the service. So cool. I respect you guys for now realizing this is a real issue and it's time to step up and do something. So I'm going to give you props there, right? I'm going to be harsh on you guys, but I'll give you props here as well. Last I heard, despite all these CEOs releasing a press release like Rides and Empower and all that, only one company has even applied to be a TNC provider, and it's not those companies. It's this guy. Meet Move, the Minneapolis-based rideshare company hoping to fill the gap if Uber and Lyft leave town.